Hey, Meredith. Hello, welcome. We'll get started in about 2 more minutes. Okay, Don, we're ready when you are.
All right, well, let's launch into this. I just talked to a person today who has 2 cats, and their names are Bodhi and Chitta. That's unusual. You know, sort of perfect timing for the class. Anyway, that was kind of cute. All right, so my email is Yeshizopa 1. There was no, you had to put a number in there. Just to remind me of my teachers. Yeshizopa. Anyway, so let's start out with the prayers. Let's start out with the ritual. And we'll do as a meditation, and then we'll do discuss. I think the meditation, I'm going to turn it into sort of a longish one, just so we can taste it. What it like, the whole. This sort of business here, these meditation points are a combination of the 2 lineages sort of wrapped into one. And so most people who try to generate bodhicitta will try to combine both 7-point cause and effect and the exchanging self with others techniques into one, which is what this is about. So, excuse me. Do you have any blankets? No, I'm fine. So what? No, I'm just teasing. If it gets too cold, I will beg Linda to turn it down, but I don't think we're there yet. Okay. There you go. Yes. No bliss, though. My gosh, look at this. They created an alleyway. This is... We have had a few here. Oh, interesting. Very good. Okay, sorry. I talk all day long, so then when I get here, I'm talked out sometimes. Well, I listen to it once in a while, but do a lot of talking. Okay, so you want to do the prayers? Have you got them? Page 34 or something like that.
Yeah, page 34 in the Gold Prayer Book. Start with, actually.
All right, so I think we've talked about the meaning of these prayers a little bit, each of them. Again, the only one I haven't really explained in detail is the mandala offering. And there's a short mandala offering, and then the long one is much more elaborate. And, I like the short one. It's kind of get to the point. But most people will do, Tibetan Buddhism got a lot of techniques to help us make a connection with the teachings. And, when you, like for example, I explained to you, right hand, left hand symbolizes female energy, right hand, male energy. Thumbs together symbolize the wish-fulfilling gem, which is really all sentient beings. And then you hold that at your heart, typically. But a lot of, when you go to monasteries and places like that, everybody's just kind of sitting around like this. Not many people, except maybe the teachers, are actually doing this. But when you do that, and then the mandala offering, this is kind of a hard one to get until you practice a few times. But you'll see a lot of people will do this. Basically, this symbolizes the universe, symbolically speaking, consists of Mount Meru, this big mountain in the middle, and then there are 4 continents, and the sun and the moon. That's what they even mention that. Mount Meru, 4 continents, the sun and the moon. Sun and the moon's not here, but this is you, and it's held at your heart. And you basically, the point of the mandala, and it's traditionally done before the teachings all the time, because it's just auspicious way to start the teachings, but it's also like practicing generosity kind of opens our heart up a little bit, And so we're imagining that we're just offering the most wonderful things in the world to the holy gurus to give us teachings, because this is the way out of suffering. And that last line, idam guru ratnam mandala kamri yatayami, means I send forth to you, holy gurus, this precious mandala. So we'll start out with the refuge in bodhicitta. I go for, can you be the Omse? Thank you.
Okay, page 34. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By my practice of giving and other perfections, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By my practice of giving and other perfections, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By my practice of giving and other perfections, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. May all sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all sentient beings be inseparable from the happiness that is free from suffering. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from attachment for friends and hatred for enemies.
Reverently, I prostrate with my body, speech, and mind.
Sorry, page 35.
Yeah.
Reverently I prostrate with my body, speech, and mind. I present clouds of every type of offering, actual and imagined. I declare all my negative actions accumulated since beginningless time, and rejoice in the merit of all holy and ordinary beings. Please remain until the end of cyclic existence, and turn the wheel of Dharma for living beings. I dedicate my own merits and those of all others to the great enlightenment. And then the short mandala offering. This ground, anointed with perfume, strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru, for continents, the sun and the moon, I imagine this is a Buddha field and offer it. May all living beings enjoy this pure land. Idam Guru Ratnamandala Kam Niryatayami.
So we'll start out with a meditation we'll do a little bit of mindfulness just to calm down, settle the mind. And then we'll do make sure you're loosened up for this one. This might take a little while because sometimes it can take 30 minutes. But just get in a comfortable position. And by the way, how do you find a comfortable position? Particularly if you're in a chair. I mean, one of the ways is to, like you rock back and forth until you find like the center point, and you might go back and forth this way until you find a nice, good place. But if you sit in a chair, you really don't want to slouch. I want to be sitting upright. As if you were sitting on the floor or cushion, with the feet on the floor, and our arms, shoulders slightly back, head and down, arms slightly away from the body, and the hands usually like this. Right hand on top of the left, thumbs touching at the level of the navel. Excuse me. And the chin slightly tucked in, the eyes maybe slightly open, or closed, whatever works for you. And then the tongue is resting on the roof of the mouth. And to settle the mind, I want you to do these kind of a weird way of doing it, but we're going to do 3 breaths, deep breaths. But each of the deep breaths can have 4 parts to the inhalation, so you go like 4 times. You breathe little breaths until you get a deep breath. At the 4th breath, you hold it for a second or 2, and then completely exhale. But you want the exhalation to be as long as you possibly can make it, comfortably. So do 3 of those different kinds of breaths. The ones that like breathe in, 4 times, hold the breath, and then exhale. Do that 3 times. And continue to follow the inhalation and exhalation for a few more minutes. And it's virtually impossible to keep the mind focused for more than a few seconds anyway. So when your mind gets lost in thought, whatever it's getting lost in, you just you bring it back. You do that again and again. That is the practice. And then notice, like we talk about the six senses in Buddhism, which are usually the five that we're all aware of, plus the mental consciousness. So there's lots of ways that information can impinge upon our awareness, you might say, like hearing sounds, smelling, tasting, seeing, touching, and just thinking. So whatever's coming in, just be open to your, the senses, all the senses. Just kind of open the doors to all the senses. Just being aware of what is arising in awareness. Don't have to be rigid or super strict. Just be open to whatever is in your field of experience. But as we do that, we pay attention, but we don't get carried away. I notice, particularly how things sort of arise in our awareness at some moment, and then they endure for some period of time, and then they disappear again. That sort of subtle impermanence of change. It could be like could be a sound or anything, thought. Then awareness rises, goes on for a while, and then moves on to the next and the next. And notice how we punctuate our experience with I. Usually, like I am hearing, as we all listen to the HVAC, or when in fact all that's actually happening is hearing. Sounds coming in, comes into the ear through a series of connections to the inner ear, the brain, and so forth, and we hear. But we're just hearing. But we always say, I'm hearing. And then same thing for seeing. When we look at something, we usually think, I'm seeing. And just that sense of ego or sense of self has to be attached to it, but it really is just seeing. The eyes are just seeing whatever is in front. Same thing with taste and smells and touch and so on. Thinking, we always think, I am thinking. When we could just label it thinking, or notice that it's just thinking, or feeling, or sad, or happy, whatever the experience is. The body is sitting and the mind is meditating. And we say, I'm sitting, I'm meditating. Where is this I? This owner, the center of attention, the possessor the I, the sense of self. Where is this? Look and see if you can get a glimpse of that I and how it seems to exist, how it appears to exist to you. Now for the last little bit of this, bring your attention like 100% to your experience of each breath, from the beginning of one breath to the beginning of the next breath, all the way through the cycle of breathing, as much as possible, not letting the mind wander. It's helpful if you want to develop focused awareness, it's helpful to, as I said, sit up straight and don't move. Be as still as you can be. I thought before I launched into this marathon of a meditation that we're going to do, it's really not that long, but I would take a second to go over the part that we talked a little bit about last time, This is, the exchanging self with the other part of this. There's equalizing and exchanging self with others. That's what this is about. Getting down to the great resolve and the altruistic intention of bodhicitta. They're part of both. But this is these are the kind of the key points of that. Yeah, equalizing and exchanging self with others. So this part, equalizing and exchanging self with others. So this one's a little bit, I don't know. This one's said to be, the 7-point cause and effect is said to be for people who are slightly dull-minded. That's what they say, which should be most of us. This one's actually quite tied into emptiness, and so I'm not really. I'm going to go on. Not that I could do a very good job of it, but it is very interrelated to the whole notion of emptiness and how self and other are just nominal conventions, right? We like where do I stop and you begin? One of those weird questions like that. But the Dalai Lama, he sort of makes it simple when he talks about this. First of all, a couple things about this. We had a great teacher stay here for I don't know, this is probably 15, 20 years ago. Geshe Dunya. He was a wonderful, wonderful teacher. And he, 25 years ago now, he stayed up in Robbie's house. And he said that the kind of love that you develop from this meditation is even more amazing than the love you develop from just remembering seeing sentient beings as being your mother and their kindness and wanting to repay their kindness, that sort of warm, heartfelt love. He said, this is a very powerful way to develop love, but I'm still looking into that. I'm still not sure. I know he was sure, but I'm not so sure. So far, I'm working with it there. But His Holiness says that the way he does this meditation is he says he imagines that there's like a little line. Oh, this would be perfect. The room is divided. But actually, on this side is just him. On the other side are countless others. Because others are limitless, right? It's infinite others, whereas it's just one. So he's going like, okay, I want to be happy, I don't want to suffer. And over here, countless others, they're all saying it at the same time. Just, wait, I want to be happy and I want to suffer. Zillions of sentient beings saying the same thing. And you're over here, I want to be happy, I don't want to suffer. And then over there's other. We think of other as like one, but it's infinite, isn't it? It's so many. But we think of it as a one. So whose happiness is more important? The happiness of one or the happiness of infinite other? That's a question. Now, to moi, to the egocentric self, of course I'm not them. They don't feel my pain. I feel my pain. I don't feel their pain. We're different. But are we that much different? So His Holiness says, when he does this meditation, he imagined, that others are way more than him. So whose happiness is more important? And as a bodhisattva, the happiness of others is more important. The happiness of countless others is more important than one. But he says it's a good start to at least He didn't say this, but this is what I get from it. It's a good start to see at least they're equal. I want to be happy, you want to be happy. We equally deserve to be happy and not to suffer. So we can see that so this is the point here. And this is something that, and Jeffrey Hopkins, I said this the other day, he said this is something we know very intimate about every person. You know, I can look at everybody in this room and I know something, I know exactly what makes you tick. And you know what makes me tick? I want to be happy. I don't want to suffer. And everything I do 24/7 is pretty much aimed at that. And it might look bad, or it might look good, or it might be whatever, but that's what everybody's operating on, that same mode. I mean, does that sound like it sounds reasonable, doesn't it? You know, it's just instinct, literally. So we want to be happy, we don't want to suffer. We all equally want to be happy and not suffer. So that's the point. We're trying to get a sense of equality here, that everybody's happiness is equally important to mine. My happiness is not more important, but it's not. And a bodhisattva would say others' happiness is more important, but at least our happiness is as important as anybody else's, and their happiness is as important as mine. So this is where we start. We're trying to equalize self and others, and the contemplation we have is everybody wants happiness and nobody wants to suffer, just like I want happiness and I don't want to suffer. We're all equal. We're all equal in wanting happiness and not wanting to suffer. Now there's a whole another deep dive, into the whole concept of emptiness here, which is I'm not prepared to do. But to sort of make this teaching even more profound and meaningful, there is, wait a minute. I'll read a quote. This is from these are some of the heavy hitters. And Shantideva, everybody knows who he is. He says, through acquaintance has the thought I arisen toward this impersonal body. So in a similar way, why should it not arise toward other living beings? And he goes on to say, whereas previously we held ourselves as most important, now we hold others as supreme. The benefit of this is enormous. Shantideva says, this is really important. Whatever joy there is in this world, all comes from desiring others to be happy. Whatever suffering there is in this world, all comes from desiring myself to be happy. Whoa. I never knew that. Never heard it before. Let's listen to this. Whatever joy there is in this world, all comes from desiring others to be happy. Whatever suffering there is in this world, all comes from desiring myself to be happy. What need is there to say much more? The childish work for their own benefit, while Buddhas work for the benefit of others. Just look at the difference between them. Food for thought. So here we are trying to develop this notion of equality of self and others. We all want to be happy, and we don't want to suffer. All right, we're all equal that way. And just begin to open, kind of explore that in what that means to your mind. Then the second point is contemplating the disadvantages of the self. Geshe got into a big thing a couple of weekends ago on Sunday morning, because I think people were thinking the disadvantages of self-cherishing, and they think, well, we should love ourselves, we should cherish ourselves. Of course we should, but it's not that kind of, it's the selfish self-cherishing that we're talking about. So this self-centeredness, this egocentricity, the disadvantages of self-centeredness, and when you start unpacking at least the non-virtues of body and speech, but even of mind, you start realizing that self-cherishing selfishness you're right at the core. I mean, killing, right? These are the 10 non-virtues. There are three of body, 4 of speech, 3 of mind. There's a lot more. There's actually 84,000 mental delusions, but we're only picking on 3. So the 3 of body, just think about it, killing, totally, most of the time driven by self-centeredness, egocentricity. Stealing, taking what isn't freely offered. Again, I'm taking, and then sexual misconduct or harmful sexual behavior, usually defined as adultery, but it's, they kind of get a little bit more nitpicky about it. But anyway, we can all, recognize what that means, and most of it's driven by selfishness. So those are 3 of body. The 4 of speech, lying, which means I'm going to deceive you with my speech. Slander, like I'm trying to turn somebody against somebody else. Right? So I'm harsh speech. Again, kind of not so hard to see how that might be driven by selfishness and egocentricity. Particularly when you are being offensive, and disturbing other people's minds. And then frivolous speech or gossip. Again, that's totally ego. I mean, you can sit around all day long. Let's talk about my favorite subject, me, and just go on and waste our time with idle gossip. So again, we can see how those are driven by self-centeredness. And then the 3 that we pick on are greed, hatred, and ignorance, or ill will. Greed, or sometimes we sometimes think of greed as, but it's big. Clinging, attachment, greed, grasping, all of that. And then ill will or hatred, all driven by self-centeredness. And then ignorance in the 10 non-virtues, ignorance is more than just not seeing reality, seeing through the illusion of self, although that's a huge part of it, but it's also disbelief in the laws of cause and effect. It's like, and again, not that you can't have doubt, but you're just completely, I don't believe that, I don't buy that, I don't believe or buy the notion of rebirth. It's just all of it's very I, I'm sure this is not true, I'm sure this is what it is. So anyway, the 10 non-virtues are all driven by self-centeredness, and that sets in motion the karmic, loop, where what goes around comes around. So we are planting seeds. In past lifetimes, our mental continuum planted a lot of seeds, right? And now they are ripening, boom, for us to be here right now, right this minute, hearing these teachings and getting whatever you get from it. This is all karma ripening, boom, billions of karmas ripening every second, every snap of the finger for us to create our world. These karmas are finished, new karmas are rising all the time, boom, boom, boom. So, but we're constantly also planting karmic seeds. Really, it's kind of a crazy notion. So we don't want to, so sometimes they'll say, all the suffering in samsara, which is big, all of the suffering from the beginning of beginningless time, which is, okay, because Buddhism doesn't posit a beginning, does it? Which actually makes sense. If you have a timeline, and right now is here, and of course now it's another here and another here, but anyway, how could you ever say there was a beginning? Because when you go to the beginning, there was something before that, and there was something before that, okay? So there's no beginning, there's no end. And so from the beginning of beginningless time until now, every bit of suffering in samsara is the cause of one demonic force which lives in our heart. It's the self-cherishing, selfish mind. So who I thought was my best friend and whose job it is to protect me actually turns out to be the source of all of my suffering. And the suffering of all, between not only my suffering, but the suffering of families, of countries. I mean, the whole world. If you look at all the problems that are going on in the world, some of them are just very obvious. So much of it is driven by ego. And a lot of it are the political egos, are the biggest ones, of course. I mean, they're the ones that cause the most suffering. So anyway, we got to begin to come to grips with the notion that self-cherishing selfishness is not my friend. It is the biggest problem I have, and we need to recognize it. And when we're being motivated by that, or when our actions are being triggered by that, we need to stop it. We need to recognize. This is where awareness comes in, isn't it? This is where being mindful of what's going on in our inner world, and then the benefits of cherishing others. I'm not going to go into this a lot, but Lama Zopa, I said this before, he had a bumper sticker, "For happiness, cherish others." I mean, Shantideva says it, didn't he? He said it. I'll read it again. He said, "Whatever joy there is in this world, all comes from desiring others to be happy. Whatever suffering there is in this world, all comes from desiring myself to be happy. What need is there to say much more? The childish work for their own benefit, while Buddhas work for the benefit of others. Just look at the difference between them." So, cherishing others, would you kill somebody if you cherished them? No. Would you steal from them? No. Would you cheat on them? No. Would you lie to them? Slander, harsh, frivolous, greed, hatred, ignorance, pride, jealousy, and 84,000 other delusions are all, if we cherish others, we don't harm them. And so this is crucial. This is for happiness. If we want this, and everybody wants to be happy, then we have to change the focus from this one to the infinite others. And so there are a lot of these practices that Lama Zopa hands out at these retreats. They're kind of cute, but how you can practice bodhicitta awareness. For example, when you're walking like up some steps, you imagine I'm leading all sentient, because the point is to train yourself to think of others first. So as you're walking, let's just even along here, you go, okay, I'm leading all sentient beings to enlightenment. Again, just to try to think about it. Or when you think, you get something like some water, you think, yeah, I'm staying hydrated so that I can stay alive, so that I can practice the path, become enlightened, and lead all sentient beings to happiness. Like that. Try to constantly bringing bodhicitta awareness into even the tiniest actions. And here, exchanging self with others, this is not like I become you. It's not that. It's exchanging self-cherishing for cherishing others. Exchanging what our default mode is, which is self-cherishing selfishness, to now we cherish others. So when we get out of, so we do that well, like everything we do is for others. So again, you drink the water for others, you get out of bed in the morning to go to work for others, you get cleaned up and try to look halfway decent for others, you go to work and you do your best for others, and you come home and you spend quality time with your family or whatever you do for others, but you are constantly wanting to be aware of how everything you do is for the sake of others. So this is the process of changing self, exchanging self-cherishing for cherishing others. And so now we label this one that used to be I as others, but we can also say, well, I am others, so I'm going to take care of this for others. In other words, you can do it the way you want to, but whatever works for you. But the point is, everything is for others. Now, I can promise you there are probably some people, psychotherapists and stuff like that, people in the mental health profession, they might have a problem with some of these things we're talking about here. Because we're not talking about being a doormat or, not taking care of yourself or not being responsible or, even if somebody, I read something the other day, it's completely legitimate to take care of your family. If somebody comes into your house and wants to kill your family, you got a responsibility to stop them, no matter what it takes. I mean, that's the right thing to do. So we can think of others, we can have this notion that we're taking care of others, but when somebody comes in and they want to harm our family, of course we want to stop them. And if we can stop them okay, this is not, you need to go, this is not your house, wrong house, bye, send them out the door. But maybe you got to be a little bit rougher than that. Maybe so. There is room within Buddhism for wrathful compassion. In other words, you can be fierce, you can be tough, you can be mean if that's what it can. But again, the motivation is compassion. Sometimes you have to. In fact, there are wrathful deities all over this place. I wish I could find a couple of them. Well, I mean, in some ways, there are wrathful aspects to these, but in the tantric iconography, there are plenty of what they call wrathful, W-R-A-T-H-F-U-L, wrathful deities. They're fierce, and they look like they're angry. There's one of the principal deities that we practice in the Kadampa tradition. When you do retreats and stuff, the first major tantric retreat is one called Yamantaka, and then people do Guhya Samaja and they do Haruka. Those are the three main deities, tantric deities, high sugar tantric deities in the Kadampa tradition. And Yamantaka is this. I'm trying to think of what he might look like. Something like the scariest Halloween character you'd ever seen. Looks like a bull, this fierce face. He's got fire coming out of every pore in his body. He's got horns. He looks really mean, but he's the embodiment of wisdom, but fierce wisdom. Interesting. So wisdom can manifest in a fierce way and a compassionate way. In other words, for social change, for example, not a lot of people think, you got to get angry, you got to get upset. Then you can be motivated, but we can also be motivated we can have the same energy, but also be motivated by awareness and compassion, the things that the Dalai Lama says that one of the problems with anger is that when we're angry, the mind can only be doing one thing at a time. One of the problems with anger is when our mind is pervaded by anger, the best parts of our mind are paralyzed. They're not present. Compassion, wisdom, kindness, discernment, all of these things are gone, out the door. So anger, everybody says, well, it's necessary, but wrathfulness with compassion and wisdom, I'd say I wouldn't kick anger completely out the door, but I think mostly not that helpful in my experience. Although I'm not saying I can be that way, that fierce way, and keep my composure and be motivated by wisdom and compassion. I think it's something we can all aspire to do. So I'm going on too long about that, but you get the point. All right, so exchanging self-cherishing for cherishing others. So now we're labeling others as, we can label others as self or you, and label you as others. So I'm going to take care of others. All day long today, I'm taking care of others. Everything I do is for others. Others. All right, and then Tonglen, remember, I'll do this tonight, we'll do this briefly, but I'm not going to go make it real complicated. We'll just imagine, for example, we'll start out with just somebody in front of us. We'll start out with ourselves, and we'll breathe out, light, and all of our virtues and so forth, and then we imagine that in the form of light. It doesn't have to be in one breath. It can be multiple breaths, and the light leaves from our heart, goes through our nostrils and out to the you that you imagine in front of you, and then you imagine that light goes in through your nostrils and down into fills your body, and your body becomes full of light and joy and just everything positive, right? And you can think, this is, a lot of times I'll try to do the meditation. I'll say, as I breathe out, I'll breathe out, may I be safe, may I be healthy, happy, and live with ease. That's the meditation. May I be safe, may I be happy, healthy, live with ease. And then I'll imagine that all of my negativity, my insecurities, and all the problems that I'm worried about that probably never come to pass, but they're still things that I'm concerned about. All of that, plus the future. I mean, the future will be problematic, and then eventually this body that I hold so precious will be dead. It will no longer exist. People won't even want to be near it. It's like it's something to get away from, a corpse, And so we imagine all of that in the form of black smoke, and we breathe that in our heart. And that, again, it can come in multiple breaths, go right down and inside and destroy the self-cherishing selfishness right at your heart. Completely destroy it. And then, like they say, like there's a black mountains, there's a mountain of ego right here in the middle of your chest, and you imagine it's destroyed as you breathe in the black smoke, and you imagine that may I be free of suffering and the causes of suffering. Okay, we're practicing compassion, and may I be safe, healthy, happy, live with ease. May I have happiness as the cause of happiness. So we're practicing loving love and compassion, taking on the suffering of me, onto me, loving compassion. Then, this was a good point that was made last week. Sometimes when you think about others, it's too much. You don't get a feeling for it. So this is why it's important to work with the people you're close to. So then you look at your spouse or your children or whoever you adore the most, your kids, particularly if you have children, oftentimes they're a big focus. And you think, and you do Tonglen with people that are meaningful to you. Then you work with your coworkers. Then if you expand out to people in your immediate community, and then beyond, until you're even practicing Tonglen with the beings in the 6 realms of samsara, the beings in the hell realms, the hungry ghost realm, the animal realm, which we can see, and then of course is the demigods or the jealous gods, and then the Deva realm. So we're looking at all the 6 realms, imagining that we're taking on their suffering and giving them happiness, compassion, love, like that. So we're building up that energy that leads this Tonglen, then sort of falls into this great wish, supreme wish. May I lead all sentient beings from whatever state of misery they're in to be completely free of suffering. And then who could actually do that? A Buddha. I must become enlightened in order to benefit all sentient beings. So you combine these two meditations of 7 cause and effect and exchanging self with others, and you end up here with this one. So we're going to do this. Everyone, if you want to stretch for a minute, stand up and just stretch. We're going to. How much time do we have left, by the way?
30 minutes.
Oh, perfect. This will take about that long, maybe a little bit less.
While everyone's stretching, I'll just do a quick announcement so I don't have to do it at the end of class. Next week is July 1st, and we will not hold class. But please come to the center. We will be holding a Guru Puja with Sog that evening. And so when Khensa Rinpoche was here, he suggested that Kadampa centers bring back doing pujas in person at the center. We kind of fell off of that with the pandemic. So we're going to start in July, doing Guru Puja with Sog on July 1st. And then we'll continue with that at least once a month there, and from there on out. These Sog days do change from month to month, so they won't always fall on a Monday, but they'll kind of be scattered around because they follow the Tibetan lunar calendar. So Sog is an offering and making requests to our gurus. And so it's kind of like a party. It's like a celebration to honor and appreciate our gurus or teachers. And so students are encouraged to participate by bringing food offerings. And this can be in the form of candy or, something you think of as yummy, like fruit and things like that. And we'll set up the altar. So if you do plan to come and participate, we ask that you arrive at 6:30. And Geshe Sangpo will arrive at 7 to lead us through the Guru Puja. And then at the end, all of the food offerings, all of the Sog, will be distributed to all of the participants here in person. Unfortunately, we won't be doing this on Zoom or online. So come in person if you can. And come around 6:30, bring in some kind of food offering, whatever you think is yummy. And if you don't bring anything, that's okay too. Don't worry about it. There'll be plenty. And then also plan to stay at the inn because we not only set up the altar, we also need to take it down at the end. So it would be roughly from 6:30 till about 8:30 is the time commitment. Again, that's July 1st, next Monday. And then we'll pick up Discovering Buddhism for 2 more classes, July 8th and 15th, I believe it is. Okay, Don.
All right, so please take a seat and take a minute or so just to settle into your meditation posture, and take a few deep breaths. So I had an experience some years ago. Venerable Roger, who's Lama Zopa's attendant, I think I met him when I first got introduced to Buddhism, 1978. And he was at the same course I was. He was a monk at the time. I think he'd been a monk for 2 or 3 years. And, I got to know him pretty well, and because I was always challenging him, this can't be right. How can you say this? Da, 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 da. I was very argumentative, and he'd fan me off. Calm down, and I'd sort of try to give me some things to think about. Anyway, when he did a retreat in Delhi I think it was a Yamantaka, but it was a high sugar tantra retreat he did. And so usually you do 4 sessions a day, and those sessions can last anywhere, well, they can last as long as you want them to, really, but you only got 24 hours in the day if you could do 4 sessions. So he said he would spend the vast majority of the session generating bodhicitta. That's how important it was from Lama Zopa's perspective. If you're going to do a 2-hour session or a 3-hour session, you need to spend as much time as you need to spend to do this meditation, these meditations that we're getting ready to do now, until you get some feeling. Because what we're really trying to do is to set the intention for everything that happens from then on, for the rest of the session. It's, when we're talking about intention, what do I mean by intention? Anybody know what that word means? Sometimes it's actually, by the way, sometimes the word intention is, in some texts, is synonymous with karma, but that's not really what I'm talking about. There are other definitions too. But it's actually, intention carries the mind to some destination. So for example, you got in your car to come to here with what? The intention to come to Kadampa Center. Now you could have made a couple of wrong turns, but if you knew the roads well enough, you'd get back on the road and get here, right? Because that was your intention to get here. So intention is so powerful because it operates in the background, doesn't it? You're driving here, but you know your intention is where you're going. You know where you want to end up, and you know what steps, what turns and things you need to do to get here. In the same way, bodhicitta is like that. This altruistic intention to become enlightened based on love and compassion, not sentimentality or not, but the real deal. And we're talking about unbiased, universal love and compassion. So that'd be really cool. We're just going to touch on these points tonight because we don't have a lot of time. But let's go ahead and get started. So we have to start with equanimity, which if we didn't do anything else tonight except equanimity, it'd be enough. But we'll do more. So remember how we do this? We imagine usually to our left. Well, actually, it's also a good thing when you do these meditations in a retreat situation, but in real life too. Imagine that your mother of this life is on your left, your father on your right, and then all of your female siblings and male siblings, right and left, and then behind you are your friends, and in front of you are the people that you feel aversion toward. Surrounded by universal living beings, all in human form. So you're not just here by yourself, and whatever realizations you have, you're sharing with all living beings. But for this meditation, the point of this meditation is to create this level ground, this sense of equal regard for the 3 categories of beings. So there's friends, strangers, and enemies or people we feel aversion toward. And right away, we can see that these are just labels, aren't they? And labels can change. The reason we label this person friend is because they said something or did something nice to us, or they've been there for us through tough times or whatever. But the label could change. It's not forever and always. And so we have friends that are now in the category of people we might feel aversion toward. Most likely. And So that's a changeable label, and the same way with the strangers. Every friend or enemy, so-called enemy, has at some point been a stranger, or at least somebody we didn't know. Well, that again is changeable. They're not fixed. And then the so-called enemy or person that we feel resistance to, if you don't like the word enemy, or aversion toward. We all have some people that when we see, we just have, and actually sometimes it's not even conscious. There's some karmic reason for it. Like in a past lifetime they killed us, but we don't know why. Just seeing this person, we feel, some kind of natural aversion arises. I've heard stories like that. So I don't know. Aversion arises for many reasons. And so but it's just a label and it changes, and just a few kind words or an apology, a sincere apology, and maybe some action to demonstrate the sincerity of our apology can take a so-called enemy, and it could go both ways. This person could apologize to us, and all of a sudden this person that we feel resistance to, all of a sudden, it may even become a friend, may even become like a great friend. So it's just a label. So this label is not fixed. It's not forever and always. And one thing we know is in past lifetimes, each one of them has been family. Again, this is where opening up your being being able to creatively align with the notion of past and future lifetimes is very helpful to do these meditations, particularly the cause and effect, 7 cause and effect, is to see, that in my past lifetimes, everyone's been my mother, everyone's been my father, everyone's been like family. Now, everyone's killed me, everyone has, tortured me, so why shouldn't I just focus on that? Well, we're not, for 2 reasons. Number one is we're trying to cultivate equal regard and, not hatred. I want to cultivate something positive, but the other reason is that when they harmed me, that was motivated by ignorance. Their harmful action was motivated by ignorance. It wasn't motivated by wisdom. It wasn't motivated by an awareness of reality, the way things are, of our interconnectedness and so on. It was motivated by selfish, self-centeredness. And so the valid relationship is the close one. It's a little bit like if your mother of this life takes a narcotic and grabs a kitchen knife and starts running to you, and she's clearly going to stab you. You don't grab the knife out of her hand and stab her. You subdue her. You take the knife out of her hand and say, calm down, and let's relax and so on. So in the same way, some beings have been really, beings have been, have treated us, all these different beings have been like family. Let's just think about that. And everybody wants to be happy and nobody wants to suffer. We know that too. And we know these things are impermanent, these labels are impermanent. They can change at any moment. So we imagine the friend that we cling to and the enemy that we feel aversion toward and the stranger that we feel apathy toward. Now we have a little bit, we try to develop equal regard for all beings, because we're going to get enlightened for all beings, not just for our friends and family, but universal living beings. We're not excluding anybody. So we have to start out with this attitude of equanimity toward all beings. So this gets to the point of analytical and placement meditation. So when you do this kind of analysis, you do it until you get some experience. It might be here in your heart of something that you might say, you might say that feels like equanimity. equal regard, equally caring. It's not love and compassion, it's not that, but it's equal regard for everybody. And when you feel that, then you hold on to that feeling. That, again, they say feeling. Hold on to the feeling, the experience of that moment as long as you can, of the experience of equanimity. And then if you lose that experience, you can go back, again, if you have time, we don't today, but you could go back and do the analytical meditation again until you get the experience of that feeling of equanimity. And then you do placement meditation. That becomes the focus of your meditation, single-pointedly. And that begins to take that concept of equanimity and make it, it transforms our heart, basically, little by little. Then we meditate on the seeing all living beings, all sentient beings, universal sentient beings as, and it's a little bit easier to do this if you think of them as in human form, but you try to remember your mother. Again, it could be anybody that you have had a close relationship with. We're using the mother, because that's the one in the text that we talk about. You want to see all sentient beings as having been your mother. And you might want to think of her when she was younger and healthier and more vital. And think, this mother of this life, she's been my mother in countless past lifetimes. Every time I was born, I had to have a mother. It could have been when I was a crocodile, it could have been when I was a wildebeest, it could have been when I was a lion, an elephant, a human, born in some realm of samsara. Every place I've been born, I had to have a mother. And so the mother of this life was my mother in countless past lifetimes, and will be again my mother in future lifetimes. And all sentient beings, and here's where you make it real. You think about, okay, my children have been my mother. My co-workers, each of them, like I said, Lama Yeshe used to go around labeling everybody mother, because that helped his mind. It is a powerful technique, particularly if you have a connection with your mother, strong connection. You think, so-and-so's been my mother, this person's been my mother, this person who's driving in the lane next to me's been my mother, this person on the elevator is full of my kind mother sentient beings. I just don't remember. Past lifetimes, I can't even remember what I had for breakfast. How can I remember countless past lifetimes? So, again, we creatively align with the notion that potentially it's possible that we've been born countless times. Every time we were born, we had a mother. And every sentient being has been my mother countless times, and will again be my mother countless times. And we extrapolate this notion of mother to all of these living beings that are around us. Everybody's has been mother, has been my mother. And again, it's said in the teachings, it's said that this is one of the hardest meditations of all to do, to get it. But when you do, You walk down the street and you immediately feel connection to people, and you don't know why. You just immediately feel some sort of connection. But again, when you've gotten to the point where you've opened up, I mean, you actually experience that all living beings have been my mother, through this using an analytical practice, then you hold into it, That becomes the focus. No more analysis, that feeling arises in your heart, mind, and you hold it. And then the next one is remembering the kindness of all other sentient beings. All right, so we think of the mother of this life. I mean, there are a lot of ways we can do this meditation. We can think of the kindness of all these beings that have been my mother. But look at, I mean, even our body is due to the kindness of who? Our mom and dad. That's where we came from. All the food that's gone into our body is due to the kindness of others. Our education, the jobs, the electricity, the building we're in, the stupa, the teachers, the Dharma, all due to the kindness of others. Others have been incredibly kind to us, and particularly our mother. So we focus on the mother of this life because we want to get something, particularly if it's a good relationship, we can think, okay, from the moment I was conceived until 9 months later, I mean, it wasn't a piece of cake for most. Every time I hear somebody who says I had an easy pregnancy, I've never had a pregnancy, so I can't comment. But I've seen plenty of women that have, and it's hard work, particularly if you get sick for 3 months, like a lot of people do. Their first 3 months, a lot of nausea, throwing up, dealing with your body changing, and then you got to push through the second trimester as your body again begins to change more, and a little bit scared because you're afraid you're going to lose the pregnancy, that you've been wanting this baby, and you're, is he or she going to be safe? Are they going to be healthy? Worry. Got to eat the right foods, take care of the baby no matter what. Take the vitamins, do it, make the appointments, blah, blah, blah. And then of course, just get into near the end of the pregnancy, and then you go into labor. And back in the old days anyway, most children were born by vaginal delivery. Nowadays, C-sections make it a lot easier on the mother. I don't think it makes it easier on the mother. Well, maybe it does actually, because they've had epidurals blocks, but it probably makes it easier on the baby too. But back in the old days, there was like hours and hours and hours of labor, and the baby's head would have to conform to the bones of the pelvis. I mean, oftentimes I used to deliver babies, and they come out looking like cone heads, because their heads. A day later, their heads looked normal, but their head literally had to be shaped by the pelvic bones. They would be born, and then all of a sudden you're in this world, and your mother has had to go through all the suffering of labor and then the delivery. Hard work. And then, but as soon as you were born, assuming you were healthy, and everybody here was, or you wouldn't be here probably, as soon as you were born, maybe the obstetrician or whoever delivered the baby, the midwife, the family doctor, I don't know, put the baby on your breast, on the mother's breast. And that not only, that kind of stimulates the uterus to contract when the baby is suckling. But the mom looks at you, and all of a sudden, all that pain is like insignificant. She's not even thinking about it. She's so happy to see you. worked so hard to get you here, and now you're here. She just went through hell, and she's not even thinking about it. All she can think about is how beautiful you are and how wonderful and what amazing that you, this human being, has come into my world. And then all the trouble that she goes through, sleepless nights, feeding you, usually breastfeeding you, feeding you with her body, taking care of you, changing your diapers, blah, 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 buying you clothes, taking you out, telling a lot of lies about you, how wonderful you are. Easy baby, no problem. Fed you, took you to school for the first time, and it broke her heart to see you go to school because this was a big change for her life. And then again, all the way through school, there to support you, there to take care of you, right on up until you finished school. And then if you went on to college, she was happy for you, but sad to see you leaving. But she was your biggest cheerleader, And then right on up until you graduated, so happy, to see whatever you did. Every accomplishment that you made along the way, she shared in that. She didn't have 1 second of jealousy. It was all about, you being the best that you could be. So happy, so joyful. And every day of her life, she thought about you at some point. She thought about you. Not 24/7 necessarily as you got older, but every day. Those of you who have children know you just never stop being a parent. And then as your mom gets older and starts losing her health, and maybe even gets cancer or something like that, but she's still thinking about you. She's still thinking about how. Is my kid going to be okay? Are you going to be okay? Even though she's the one that's suffering. So you try to develop some feeling for this incredible kindness that your mother of this life has shown you. You didn't do anything to deserve it except just show up. But, she did so much. And to this day, if she's still alive, if you're lucky enough to have a mother that's still alive, if somebody said, one of you's got to die, I'd bet anything your mother would say, take me. Don't take my baby. Don't take my child. Don't take me, even adult child. Take me. That's how much mothers, they are willing to give up their lives. Even in the animal kingdom, mothers will die in defense of their children, of their, like a wildebeest mother, or you fill in the blank. Will any animals will literally give up their life in defense of their babies, even in the animal kingdom. So, it's that same mindset that our mothers of this life have for us. And then we extrapolate to all of these other mothers that, again, our children were our mothers and they were kind to us, and our community of people that were here, the people in this room, we've all been mothers to each other and have been extremely kind to one another, the same way our mothers have been. And so we try to develop we extrapolate that warm feeling of my kind mother sentient being, right? That notion pervades, the universe of sentient beings in human form. We try to feel that in our heart. The kindness of our mothers, of our universal living beings who've been our mothers. They've all been kind to us. As kind as our mother of this life. and then hold that experience. And then the next contemplation is repaying the kindness. And this is just based on the notion that if somebody does you a favor, it's only right that you repay that kindness. That is just an unrealistic expectation. So here's this person, these people, these beings, universal living beings, in fact, who've been so kind to us. It's our responsibility to repay their kindness. Just like we need to repay the kindness of our mother by showing up when she has problems, or whenever we can help, we will. We have that same responsibility to repay the kindness of universal living beings who've been so kind to us, maybe some in this life and in past lifetimes. There we go. Next meditation is what we did earlier, seeing the equality of self and others. We're all equal, aren't we? We're all exactly equal. Remember the Dalai Lama? He's over here. I want to be happy. I don't want to suffer. Then on the other side is others who are countless, but we think of them as singular, but they're countless. And they say, I want to be happy. I don't want to suffer. Whose happiness is more important? Whose suffering is more important? If we're observing this, from afar, just looking down on this situation as like we were, in a drone or, Martian or something. Is this person's happiness more important than universal living beings? No. They're at least equal. Everybody's happiness is important. You want to be happy, you don't want to suffer. Universal living beings want to be happy, they want to suffer. We're equal in this, in wanting this. Even, you can see even insects are like this. They don't want to suffer. They'll avoid things that are causing them to suffer. So we all want happiness, we don't want to suffer, we're equal. The equality of self and others. So you can get a sense of that. And you go the faults of self-cherishing. And we've kind of done that meditation, or at least we talked a lot about it. And we look at, when I do this, I try to go through the 10 non-virtues. I go, okay, killing. All of these are driven by self-cherishing, selfishness. Killing and stealing, sexual misconduct, lying, slander, harsh, frivolous talk, greed, hatred, ignorance. All driven by self-cherishing selfishness, which sets into motion which plants the karmic seeds that ripen into suffering. All the suffering from the beginning of beginningless time until right now is the fault of one demon, the self-cherishing, selfish mind that lives right in the center of my heart. Not that I'm a bad person, but I have that. That is part of my psyche, this selfish, self-cherishing attitude, which is based on ignorance. Not my friend. It looks like a defender, but it's not. It's looked like our protector, but it's not. Its only purpose is to torture us. And cherishing others is the cause of all happiness. And again, you could go through the 10 non-virtues, but you know what it is. So for happiness, cherish others. For happiness, cherish others. And you can do, again, each time you do these contemplations, when you feel it, when you feel the meaning of the words, when it's more than just, parroting the words, when you actually have some experience of the words, That's when you stop the analysis. Yeah, for happiness, cherishing others, it does work. I can see it. I can feel it. Then you stop. Stop analysis. And you single-pointed, concentration. Then you go, so now we exchange self-cherishing for cherishing others. So now we put the label others on ourselves. So whatever I'm doing is for others. I get out of bed in the morning for others. I clean myself up for others. I feed my body so I can function and be productive, take care of business for others. I drive to work for others. I do a great job or do my best for others. Others, others, others. Everything is focused out. Because ordinarily it's been focusing on us, right? 99.999% of our thoughts are all about me, me, I. And now we've shifted the dynamic. So now we're focusing on others. Everything is for the sake of others. We exchange self for others. Again, to get a feeling for that, then we can do Tonglen. Kind of don't have much time left, but just a couple of, you can work with yourself. When you do this practice at home, you can work with, yourself, and you can branch out to your, immediate family, and then, your community of people that you work with, and then, like that, expand it out as much as you desire. But just look at yourself and imagine, as you want to wish yourself happiness, right? May you be happy, and as you breathe out all your virtue and positive energy and stuff in the form of white light. And you're thinking, may I be happy and have the causes of happiness. May I be safe, healthy, happy, and live with ease. And you imagine that white light goes into your body, and you're completely pervaded by this blissful white energy, white light. And you actually receive that, all the benefit that was sent to you. Again, has to do with love. And then you imagine all the suffering that you'll experience in the future, in the form of black, heavy, dark, dank smoke. And that sort of rises off of you. And you breathe that in slowly. You can do multiple breaths. As you breathe it in, it comes into your nostrils. All that suffering, as you take on your own suffering, goes down to your heart, this sort of, this granite mountain, which encases your self-cherishing selfishness, and it explodes. It completely destroys this encasing, this sort of granite mountain that houses your self-cherishing selfishness, and that disappears too. And now your body's completely filled with light, and you're free. You're free of self-cherishing selfishness. As you breathe it in, you're thinking, may I be free of suffering and its causes. And you're imagining that you're bringing suffering into yourself, which is the last thing your ego wants to do, right? Is to take on anybody's suffering. In this case, yours. But you do, and it destroys it. So you practice loving kindness, compassion. Loving kindness, compassion. You can do this all day long, as much as you want to. There's stories of Buddhist saints that they said every breath, every conscious breath that they took, they tried to practice Tonglen with every breath. Pretty amazing. And then you get to this supreme wish, or this aspiration of that, I aspire to guide all sentient beings from whatever state of suffering and discomfort, whatever they're dealing with now, to guide them from whatever mess they're in, to be completely free of suffering. By myself alone is my job. I'm personally responsible for the happiness of universal living beings. We take that on. This is the attitude. Now, this is heroic, right? This is amazing. But it's an attitude. If it could have been done, it would have been done. But it's an attitude that helps us cultivate bodhicitta, and it's really important. And we take the attitude that, and it excludes nobody, not the enemies, not the strangers, which make up the people we want to exclude. It includes everybody. I'm personally responsible for the happiness of universal living beings. Again, some people would have a problem with that. This is where, if you can't stomach this, honestly, this is, I don't know if this is the right word or not, but some people, who practice the path of individual liberation, they don't want to do this meditation because they want individual liberation. They want to end their own suffering. But somebody who's on the Bodhisattva's path, they like this practice. They think this is cool. This is a worthwhile thing to aspire for. And then we realize that we are a mess, that we don't even have our act together. That that we have so much confusion and jealousy and anger and pride, and we've got negative karma up the wazoo. There's so much, garbage that we deal with every day. We're not prepared to guide others from their current state of confusion and misery, to be totally free of that. But, to do that, who could do that? Somebody who was amazing, somebody who had perfect wisdom, somebody who definitely achieved nirvana, was completely free of suffering, had perfect wisdom, perfect compassion, perfected loving kindness and compassion and wisdom, and the other qualities of a Buddha are power, and another one which we don't talk about much, but it's important. It's crucially important to this particular process. Is called skillful means. This knowing what to do and say for that individual that will help them at that moment to open up and to realize their potential, or at least take a step in that direction. The only being that could do that is a Buddha. Somebody who perfected themselves. The only being who can actually do what I want, in my heart of heart, want to do, is an enlightened being. And so we make that aspiration called bodhicitta. We develop a feeling for it. I must become a Buddha. It's just altruistic intention to become enlightened based on love and compassion. I must become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. And we get a feeling for that. And we hold on to it. And then, and when we practice it, thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of times, maybe over many, many lifetimes, we become a bodhisattva, where it becomes our come from for everything we do. So that's the meditation of bodhicitta. Okay. So let's do a dedication verses and we'll wrap it up.
It's page 246 and 247 in the Gold Prayer Book.
By the way, I apologize for going over, but I come from the Lama Zopa tradition where there is no time. Time is now. He always ran over. So, anyway, I try. All right. May all beings everywhere, plagued by sufferings of body and mind, obtain an ocean of happiness and joy by virtue of my merits. May no living creatures suffer, commit evil, or ever fall ill. May no one be afraid or belittled with the mind weighed down by depression. May the blind see forms and the deaf hear sounds. May those whose bodies are worn with toil be restored on finding repose. May the naked find clothing and the hungry find food. May the thirsty find water and delicious drinks. May the poor find wealth, those weak with sorrow find joy. May the forlorn find hope, constant happiness, and prosperity. May there be timely rains and bountiful harvest. May all medicines be effective and wholesome prayers bear fruit. May all who are sick and ill quickly be free from their ailments. Whatever diseases there are in the world, may they never occur again. May the frightened cease to be afraid. May those bound be freed. May the powerless find power. May people think of benefiting each other. For as long as space remains, for as long as sentient beings remain, till then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. Amen. So thank you for being here and your patience tonight. But I didn't want to cut that meditation short.
All right. Have a good night, everyone. And don't forget, next week we skip Discovering Buddhism, but come if you can to the Guru Puja. More information is online, so you can just go to the calendar and read more about it.
And this would be a great practice to do these meditations. Even, one of the ways to do it, by the way, is to just take one of the points each day, spend a little bit more time on equanimity the first time, and then just do glance meditations of the other points. Then maybe the second day, you do not so much time on equanimity, but then spend more time on seeing all beings as your mother. And then again, glance meditation on the other ones like that. That's another way to develop a deeper understanding of it, a deeper appreciation.